All right, let's just get right into it. AI is here, and it's not just some new fad in the engineering world. It feels like it's completely tearing down the old structures and rebuilding from the ground up. And that brings up a huge question for every single engineer out there. Is this thing going to make us better? Or is it going to make us, well, obsolete? Let's figure this out.
And yeah, that quote right there, that's the heart of it, isn't it? That's the anxiety. You see this everywhere on Reddit and Slack channels and team meetings. This feeling that all those years of school, all that hard work, could just get pushed aside by some new algorithm. That fear is absolutely real.
But then, on the flip side, you've got this take, the more optimistic view, right? That AI is just the next big tool in the toolbox. Like when we went from slide rules to spreadsheets or from drafting tables to CAD software. It's powerful for sure, but totally useless without a smart person pulling the levers. So, which one is it? Is it a replacement or is it just another tool?
Well, the truth is, it's probably a bit more complicated than that. It's not just another tool. What we're really looking at here is a fundamental shift in how engineering gets done. AI isn't just about speed, it's changing the kind of work we do. And whenever you have a disruption this big, you've got to talk about the risks. And they are very, very real.
Look, if we're gonna use this stuff, we have to be brutally honest about its flaws. I mean, if you lean on it too much, your own skills can get rusty. If the data it's trained on is biased, guess what? Its answers will be biased. And then there are the technical glitches. We're talking about AI hallucinations, straight up buggy code, and security holes that are so subtle they can be a nightmare to find.
And this quote, man, this just perfectly sums up the problem. So here's the story. An engineer's boss gets an AI to spit out some code. And at first glance, it looks perfect. I mean, 98% of it was spot on. But that last 2%, oh boy. Buried in that last little bit was a bug that took a human engineer a full hour to debug. That's the real danger with these AI hallucinations. They sound so confident, so convincing, but they can be wrong in these tiny, catastrophic ways.
Okay, so with all that in mind, what do we do? How do we get through this? Well, the answer isn't to just throw AI in the trash, but it's also not to just blindly trust everything it says. The real solution is to become what we're calling a future-proof engineer. And that means you have to master two things at once. On one hand, you've got to learn the new AI tools. But on the other, you have to double down on those timeless human skills that, honestly, AI just can't touch.
So let's start with the tech side. The foundation here is pretty straightforward. You've got Python, that's kind of the native language of AI, machine learning, all that good stuff. Then you need JavaScript, because that's how you actually build apps and get these AI tools into the hands of real people. And hey, if you're one of those people who really wants to get under the hood and understand how this all works, well, you gotta know your linear algebra and statistics. No way around it. That's the math that powers the whole thing.
And when we talk about the AI toolkit, it's really built in layers, one on top of the other. You start with machine learning. That's basically teaching the computer how to learn from data. Then you level up to deep learning, which is where you throw massive amounts of data at it until it becomes a genuine expert. Once it's an expert, you get to generative AI. Now it can actually create new things. And the cutting edge right now, that's agentic AI, where you can give it a goal and it will figure out and perform a whole series of actions all on its own. Now, for these really advanced models, especially generative AI, to actually work their magic, they need a totally different kind of memory. It's not like the old school databases we're all used to. This is a critical piece of the puzzle, and it's called a vector database. Okay, so what on earth is that? Here's the key thing to get. An AI doesn't think in words like we do. It thinks in math, in numbers and relationships. A vector database stores things based on those relationships. So the AI doesn't know what a cat is, but it knows the number representing cat is super close to the number for dog or kitten, but really, really far away from the number for pizza. And that's what lets it search for related ideas incredibly fast. It's all about context. And this right here, this brings us back to that core idea of the dual path. It's all about knowing what you should hand off to the AI and what skills you as a human need to sharpen. So let the AI handle the repetitive stuff, automating tasks, crunching massive data sets, generating boilerplate code. That's what it's great at. But where do we shine? Creativity, emotional intelligence, big picture strategic thinking, and maybe the biggest one of all, taking ownership. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The highest paid people aren't the ones just cranking out tasks, they're the ones who take responsibility. An AI can write a million lines of code, but it can't take ownership if that code fails. It can't be held accountable. That's still on us. That's a human job. So, what does this actually look like in the real world? This new partnership between human engineers and their AI assistants. Let's take a look at how this is already playing out across a bunch of different engineering fields. Okay, so this chart gives us a really clear picture of where AI is having the biggest impact right now. And no surprise, code generation is way up there at the top. But look what's right behind it: testing and maintenance. It's basically taking over the most repetitive, time-consuming parts of the job, which in theory should free up developers to focus on the bigger, more complex problems. And this isn't just a software thing, not by a long shot. In electronics and mechanical engineering, AIs are running these incredibly complex thermal simulations to design better cooling systems. Chemical engineers, they're using AI to sift through mountains of technical documents and industry codes. And in civil engineering, AI is being used for predictive maintenance, spotting tiny issues in a bridge or a building before they become massive critical failures. It's a game changer everywhere. And just in case you think this is still some niche, futuristic thing, you gotta see this number. Gartner predicts that by 2026, over 80% of companies will be using generative AI. For perspective, that number was less than 5% in 2023. That's not just growth, that's an explosion. This isn't some wave off in the distance. The tsunami is already hitting the shore. All right, so the change is here, and it is happening fast. So the question becomes, how do you navigate it? How do you do it safely and effectively? It's not about just handing the keys to the AI and letting it drive. It's about you being a much, much smarter driver. So here's a really practical way to think about it. For every cool thing AI can do, there's a risk you need to manage. And if you look at the strategy to deal with that risk, it almost always comes down to the same thing: human oversight. We're talking mandatory code reviews by a human, using AI for suggestions, not final answers, and having a person double check and curate everything that comes out of it. So, what can you start doing like tomorrow? First, start small. Don't try to automate your most critical system on day one. Use it for low-stakes stuff first. Second, when you talk to the AI, be super specific. Give it all the context, just like you would if you were writing a detailed bug report. Third, and this is a big one, always verify. Never, ever trust what it gives you without testing it yourself. Remember, it hallucinates. And finally, you have to stay in control. You are the engineer. It is the assistant, not the other way around. You know, this quote really changes how you should think about all this. The smartest engineers aren't just using AI to code faster. That's table stakes. They're using it to become better engineers. They're asking it to explain complex code. They're asking it for different ways to solve a problem. They're using it as a partner to actually deepen their own knowledge. And that brings us right back to the central question, doesn't it? The AI hallucinates. It has zero empathy. It can't take ownership. So in a world where this technology is everywhere, who's really in control? The answer is simple. You are. Your judgment, your critical thinking, your sense of responsibility, those things have never, ever been more valuable.